Blood once passed for cure, for fever, for pain, for fear itself. Healers opened veins and watched crimson promise spill. Not myth, history. For centuries it held medicine in its grip. The trail leads to ancient Greece, in crowded agora and in quiet clinics. Hippocrates framed a new logic. Four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. Keep them in balance. That was the charge. Blood tipped the scale. They released it. The idea felt clear. It felt orderly. It endured. It shaped care from temples to town squares. Yet a simple remedy grew into doctrine. Why did it stay? Habit, authority, hope, and the terror of illness. Walk with me through that story, fascinating and at times frightening. The history of bloodletting does more than chart a treatment. It reveals how humans chase control. Then the body answers. In the winding alleys of ancient medicine, a doctrine took root. The four humors. Health seemed to rest on balanced fluids. From Greece it spread outward, not only in schools, in homes as well. Hippocrates sketched the early frame. Galen refined it and fixed it in place. He tied each humor to body and to mind. Temperament had a chemistry, so they believed. Blood stood for air and spring. It was praised as life-giving and pure. The praise was mistaken. So physicians opened veins. Bloodletting rose as a universal cure. It lasted for centuries, across distant cultures. It guided the hand. The reach was vast. The echo was long. Strange to consider now. Unsettling indeed, yet its imprint still ripples. The Roman Empire pushed its frontiers. Conquest traveled, with more than swords. Medical ideas marched with the legions. Galen's voice carried across garrisons and ports. His theories shaped the surgeon's hand. Bloodletting rose from method to mandate on Roman fields, tents bright with lamplight. Surgeons read the pulse. They set bones. They cut the skin, not only to close wounds, to open veins. Soldiers offered their arms in trust. Leaders promised balance, relief from fever, a guarded path back to strength. Official sanction made the practice feel unassailable, orthodox. Yet complexity gathered beneath iron and leather. The cure could drain more than sickness, and sometimes life. Whispers traveled faster than orders. Did doubt ever reach the command tent? Perhaps. A general weighed outcomes. A private counted heartbeats. What if the question had come sooner? Had someone said enough? History keeps its silence. The body did not. We step into medieval Europe. Ancient ideas took root in monasteries and rising universities. Superstition and inquiry lived side by side, often uneasily. Monks labored in shadowed cells with humble tools. They carried Galen like scripture. They bled the faithful with solemn care, a ritual, a bargain with God and the body. At sickbeds, the sanguine temperament seemed to rule. Needles pierced to calm imagined tides. Debate filled the halls. Behind doors, mistakes multiplied. Plague met the knife. Infection met the same. Knowledge advanced. Harm did too. The age sought order through ritual. It found risk instead. Earnest hands sometimes sealed grim fates. Here the practice sat in paradox. Faith pressed forward, fear kept pace. Shadows outgrew the candles and lingered. Renaissance operating rooms stood in sharp contrast to medieval chambers. Bright light met old shadows. Seasoned surgeons gathered with new intent. They mapped the body for healing. Ambroise Paré stepped forward. He defied the drift of custom. He questioned ritual. He tested outcomes. Yet bloodletting endured. Knowledge surged. The cut remained. Surgeons traced vessels with growing confidence. They studied pulse and flow, and still they opened a vein. Cure and safeguard, in one gesture. A paradox held fast. Picture the room. air thick with oils and murmurs. Instruments gleamed under wavering flame. Courage met uncertainty at the table. Public triumphs spoke of progress. Private practice told another story. In closed chambers, bleeding remained a first move. Habit, hope, fear. They mingled at the wrist. The blade kept its rhythm, part science, part relic. Between dark and light, the hand hesitated. Then it carved a choice. History pressed close. So did the patient's breath. Public speeches let some claims fade. At the bedside, they persisted. Progress advanced. Tradition clung. The theater held both truths. And in that tension, modern surgery learned to speak. Not cleanly, not at once. But step by step, it did. The Enlightenment prized reason and inquiry. It carved into old habits. Voltaire mocked superstition. Rousseau questioned consent and power. A new vocabulary rose, evidence and experiment and proof. Lamps burned in studies. Cafes hissed with debate. In lecture halls and crowded salons, the argument pressed forward, with data and doubt and a hard new candor. It stung. And yet, the lancet remained. Bloodletting held its ground. Custom wore a white coat. Physicians reached for ritual as much as remedy. Habit felt safe. Measured results came slowly, then doubted. Could reason uproot centuries of habit? Some said yes, others hedged. Journals filled with trials and quarrels. Patients bled. Hopes did too. The age challenged it. The practice endured. A paradox in plain sight. Scholars probed outcomes. Numbers replaced omens. Still the bowl was set beneath the elbow. Still the cut. Progress walked with its shadow. Stubborn and close. Authentic knowledge promised correction. It rarely arrived in one sweep. Error loosened by degrees. Threats made tradition tighten its grip. That was the lesson. Brilliance advanced. Caution lagged. The era learned to measure both. Not just the cure, the cost. The 18th century trembled with revolt. Thrones shook, so did clinics. The French Revolution redrew power. It also rewired care. Crowds met sick rooms. The Enlightenment cut through ritual. Egalitarian ideas challenged decrees. Medicine staged its own uprising. Bloodletting stood as doctrine. Then it began to wobble. New voices asked for evidence. Physiology over phantoms. Not everyone yielded. Many stitched the old to the new. They steered into stricter methods, measurement, replication, proof. Much of the churn hid in societies and salons, some noble, some clandestine. There, bloodletting still spoke with authority. Science pressed back and gained ground. The fuse was lit. Change rode the winds of revolution. Institutions shifted. At the bedside, in the guild, across the law. Those forces kept moving. They would refit the very foundations. Settlers crossed the ocean with more than hopes. They carried habits and cures they trusted. European medicine came ashore intact. Bloodletting stood among its pillars, not a dusty relic, a practice praised by leading physicians. Benjamin Rush led that chorus, a son of the Revolution. He anchored his faith in humoral balance. He ordered the lancet for fevers, for coughs, for convulsions, for almost anything. Certainty drove his hand. Culture and care tangled in early America. The result was a paradox. The practice grew. Doubts smoldered. Some called it backward. Others called it medicine itself. It endured in prestigious rooms, quietly. It slipped through the storms of old empires and new republics. A custom in motion. Its Atlantic passage marked an age of change, audible in every cut. An echo lingered in the so-called land of opportunity. 1799. At Mount Vernon, George Washington fell suddenly ill. The nation's first president struggled to breathe. His doctors acted at once. They chose bloodletting. It was the creed of the age, sincere, certain. They bled him repeatedly, pint after pint, seeking balance and relief. His breath grew shallower. The treatment offered faith, not rescue. Duty met limits. Their learning was earnest and incomplete. It may have hastened his end. In those quiet rooms, legacy had no command. Only the body spoke. The moment became a warning. Devotion without understanding can do harm. The 19th century opened with iron and steam and restless minds. Medicine felt the tremor. Victorian certainty met a rising hunger for proof. Pierre Charles Alexandre Louis stepped into that argument, a French physician, unblinking. He championed the numerical method. He counted outcomes instead of trusting custom. Numbers over ritual, his stark proposal. He tested bloodletting and found its promise thin. The finding cut deep. Public faith shifted. Tradition yielded ground to empiricism. The old confidence began to fray near century's turn. Hospitals loosened their grip on inherited dogma. Surgeons looked beyond habit. Anesthesia quieted pain by mid-century. Bacteriology redrew the map of infection. New methods entered the theater with austere authority. Yet the bowl and lancet lingered. Old echoes traveled long corridors. Some practitioners released the practice slowly and reluctantly. Habit resists humiliation, but evidence kept knocking. By the final tolls, clarity held the light. The past stepped back. Public practice ebbed. Shadows clung to the esoteric fringe. Bloodletting found ambiguous sanctuary within secret societies. Fraternity halls convened in antique rituals and veiled symbols. The practice seeped into subtler realms. It was reshaped by aims unbound by empirical scrutiny. Influential orders drew on the husks of old misconceptions, not to cure, to belong. Exclusivity became medicine's echo, hollow yet binding. Within these circles, the practice endured. Brethren kept it for trust, for right, for lineage. History's narratives folded into philosophy's enigmas, hidden away, beyond the public's relentless scrutiny. Broader society raced toward reason. The roots held fast in confidential chambers. They clung to arcane vestiges of a lost age, untouched by systematic debunking. These legacies endure and expose our social design. Sometimes symbol outruns reason. It dazzles, then demands loyalty. At the dawn of the 20th century, medicine met a decisive crossroads between ritual habit and measured proof. Science stepped from the tradition's shadow. Germ theory had matured. Instruments arrived with astonishing speed. Radiographic images revealed hidden interiors. Aseptic practice gripped the clinical mind. Bloodletting faded from the stage. Once a cure and a curse, now a relic. Yet its ghost did not leave. It hovered in memory and ritual. Communities weighed comfort against proof. Change asked for courage. Science led first. Understanding followed. Sometimes slowly. Young physicians stepped forward. They opened doors no one had named. New disciplines took root. Entire worlds of diagnosis appeared. Humanity crossed a threshold. Into light. Bloodletting remained as trace and teacher, a warning, a reminder, a plea. Its full meaning waited in close study, for those willing to look and not look away. Modern healthcare has changed beyond recognition, yet traces of older medicine remain in its polished corridors. Bloodletting sits in the museum. Its logic endures in therapeutic phlebotomy for hemochromatosis. Most care today rests on hard evidence, still. Culture leaves odd bends and stubborn myths. At the margins, some revive discarded notions, in alternative clinics, in moments of fear. These returns are not quaint. They measure our comfort with the past against dazzling progress. Precision tools now meet whole-person care. Yet contradictions surface. An old ritual appears in new dress. It looks seamless. It is not. Context decides value. The echoes teach. They mark the limits of certainty. They slow our hands. They ask for caution. They also invite humility. These strands reach forward from antiquity, threaded through our present fabric. Through that weave, we see each medical milestone anew. Not as triumph alone, as hope renewed, we pause and listen, shared. Once woven into civilization's fabric, bloodletting carries a potent legacy through folklore and art. Hearthside tales thickened into legend. Words leapt from embers to vellum. Composers borrowed its hush and its haunt. Pain met cadence. The human chase for meaning set the tempo. Galleries keep the echoes. Curators walk their quiet halls. They track its mark on vision and taste. They note the doubts it left behind. Aesthetic delight, social misgiving. Side by side. For many artists, its eerie poise invites return. A figure on the threshold, an allegory with teeth. It sketches the limits we love to test, beyond the stillness of journals. Within the flux of making, the old rite stays malleable, yet whole. It offers scaffold, it offers solace. Culture turns and looks back. Its stories expose the mind's hidden knots. Myths return. Lore answers across the long centuries. We listen. We measure ourselves. History's errors taught us with a stern hand. We stand at the edge of science, and we breathe. An old practice lingers in the mind. Bloodletting speaks now as a warning. It holds memory. It also points away. These stories still ring in clinics and classrooms. Healers chart paths we have not seen. They listen back to move forward. Progress rests not only on victories, it grows from examined mistakes. That is the bargain. This account offers a steadying frame. It is both mirror and guide. We weigh heritage against momentum. We keep three anchors: diligence, skepticism, informed intention. That legacy sharpens the lens on our possible futures. Look closely. You see caution paired with understanding. Shadows remain. They do not rule. We keep watch in the light. We step away from antiquity without discarding its lessons. We move with care and with confidence. Frontiers open. We are changed and changing.